Evolutionary psychology is based on the simple premise that the mind is adaptive in the same way that other biological functions are. That the way we think and act and respond to environment has been shaped by our evolutionary past. In particular, we are optimized for the environment of evolutionary adaptiveness, as we talked about in the last video. This is a burgeoning field in psychology. There is a lot of research that is taking place, though I do want to emphasize that there is controversy over whether or not it is a fully valid form or the methods that are used are valid, but it is an important aspect of psychology and strongly related to biological aspects of our psychology. So we're going to just go through some examples of hypotheses and experiments, just a small sample that evolutionary psychologists have performed, so you get a feel for how it works and the kind of ideas that they promote. Human beings are pattern recognition machines. We are highly prone to seeing patterns in things, particularly in nature. Classic example of this is clouds. Oftentimes when we look at clouds, we see shapes that represent animal, people, other things like that, even though they're simply clouds. Evolutionary psychologists have explored various reasons why we might be heavily prone to seeing patterns even when they're not truly there. One proposed mechanism is what we call differential payoffs. Allow me to paint the following picture. You're out for a walk late at night, and coming down the street is this guy. So you're left with the question, are you interested in getting those free hugs or not? What is your instinct? For the purposes of this discussion, we're going to assume two basic instincts. One, assume that this guy's up to no good, potentially dangerous, get the heck out of there as fast as you can. The other is to assume that he probably just wants hugs, and to go up and give him a hug. So you either embrace him or you run. Now, in this scenario, we're going to break it down into two potential outcomes. One, he's dangerous. Two, he's really not. So now let's take a look at how these different outcomes break down based on differential payoff. In the first pairing, if the clown is dangerous and you decide to run, what's your payoff? Well, your payoff is you survive, you live. On the other hand, if he's dangerous and you decide to give him a hug, you're dead. So the payoff differential is survival or death. In the second situation, where the clown is not dangerous and just wants to give a hug, if you decide to run, what's the negative there? Perhaps wasted energy, you look a little silly, right? On the other hand, if you assume that he's safe, what's your payoff? You get a hug, right? So in the first scenario, the differential payoff is survival or death. In the second scenario, the differential payoff is a hug or looking silly. Are these payoffs the same relative difference? The argument is that the survival versus death is a bigger differential payoff than looking silly versus getting the hug. So in other words, you are better off assuming danger in this scenario. In fact, we can extend this to anything. Think about sub-Saharan Africa's savanna, grasslands, two people walking down a road, there's a rustling in a bush. One of them assumes it's a tiger that's going to eat them and starts running down the road to escape. The other thinks it's the wind and keeps on walking. Right? In the scenario where it's the wind, the person who made the wrong choice wasted energy and looked silly. In the scenario where it's an actual tiger, the person who made the wrong choice is dead. That means, generally speaking, that we should assume the worst. We should assume the pattern and then go from there. Here's another example. Looking at these two faces, which one appears more attractive? Most people will actually identify the right photo as more attractive. And if you look closely, you'll see that this photo is a lot more symmetrical, right? The nose and the eyes are asymmetrical in the photo to the left. So it was hypothesized that perhaps human beings had a preference for symmetry in the face. In these photos, you can actually see that there was an artificial symmetry that was constructed, where they took the original photo and they made a perfect left symmetry and right symmetry. If we look at those left and right symmetries, those faces actually look quite weird and are actually not viewed as more attractive. This was argued that perhaps maybe we don't prefer symmetry. Ultimately, evolutionary psychologists have argued that perfect symmetry in these cases creates what's called the uncanny valley. The uncanny valley is a fascinating property that happens to our relative positive or negative emotional response to things that we see. If things are not human at all, we can often develop relatively positive emotions towards them. But as they start to become more and more human-like, but not quite human enough, there's a sudden drop-off, right? Where they appear kind of human, but they're not human enough, and we do not like them. They make us very, very uncomfortable. I call this sometimes the porcelain doll territory. But then suddenly we move out of that valley and back to positive emotional reactions when things begin to appear more and more human. Right? It's been proposed that that perfect left-right symmetry that we saw in the previous pictures actually falls under this uncanny valley and why it's rejected. But when we do talk about facial attractiveness, symmetry is important, but it is not the only thing. What evolutionary psychologists have found is that we actually have a preference for the average face. What you're looking at here on the left are two actual faces. On the right are average faces. Those two people don't actually exist. They are an average of dozens and dozens of people. And when we take these facial averages, we tend to find these facial averages as substantially more attractive than any given face. In fact, evolutionary psychologists have explored this across a wide range of cultures and genders, averaging faces from those regions and creating these composite faces that are often found much more attractive than single faces, both in the regions in which the pictures were originally created, as well as almost any other region around the world. Right? So it seems as if we are actually drawn towards facial averageness and attractiveness and not just pure symmetry. This facial averageness might actually be beneficial in a variety of ways, but one major proposed mechanism is that it helps us with disease avoidance. What you're looking at here are two composite faces. These are average faces. Which face looks healthier to you? Most people will identify the face on the right as appearing healthier. And that's exactly what we're looking at. What they did is they took people's pictures, averaged them together when they were healthy, and then they gave them a cold. They took the same picture and averaged the faces together while they had a cold. And it turns out that people are very, very good at identifying all the various small characteristics that make somebody look sick, or when they are sick, changes we see in their face. Right? So any kind of deviations from that facial average might actually indicate some sort of disease or other factors that can lead to the desire to avoid the person and might underlie where that evolutionary adaptation came from. Right? So though this is only a tiny subset of some areas in which evolutionary psychology explores. It is a wide part of the field of psychology right now. But I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a sample. And show how that connects back to some of the principles of inheritance and genetics we talked about at the beginning of the unit.